Once you've got your bike home, which you decided to buy, you got your bike home, get to know your bike. And a good way is to buy a manual and read it through, because the things I'm going to say to you now will help straight away. First thing I would do, give it an oil change. Then you know you change your oil, and put down your mileage if you want to, so you've got a record of it. So you change your engine oil, your gearbox oil. If it's clean, just top up the gearbox oil, it's not quite so bad. But with the engine oil change, when you warm that engine up and drain your oil, you'll know what that oil's like. As I said to you before, you make sure when you buy it's got a good return, but when you warm the engine up and you drain it, you'll see if it's metallic. And if it's bad, then you have cause to look into the engine maybe, or maybe it's not quite what you thought it was, the bike. Primary chain case oil, change that as well. Fork oil, it's not a bad idea. I run these on slightly thicker oil, like 2050 oil, not your modern fork oil. But you do that sort of thing first. Another good thing is cable routing. You might find that the clutch cable is very stiff. It may not be the clutch itself, it might be just the routing of the cable. Not a bad idea once you've got your bike. Whip your seat and tank off, have a look underneath, because you didn't see that when you was buying it. It's only a couple of fixings. Just look at your wiring, and if there was a wire that was slightly shorting out, you caught it before it done any damage, or connector, because you don't want to be out on the road and an electrical connection fall apart and you lose your lights, because these things run, as you know, they've just dyno. Another good thing really is the rear chain. Not a bad idea, obviously, when you're checking adjustment, see how far back the back wheel is and the adjusters. And if it's right back, take the link out, the joining link out, drop the chain down a little bit and just feel if there's a lot of side play and push it in and out. You can get hold of the chain and move it that way, inwards and outwards. And if it's sideways movement, don't mess about, get a new chain. Count the links, don't just pull the chain off. Get your new chain ordered and clip on your new chain to the old one. So when you feed it on, you've pulled the old chain off and the new one goes straight over the back. Otherwise, everyone knows this, it gets caught up in the back of the primary chain case, you can't get it onto the engine sprocket, so feed the new chain onto the old one. Yeah, also, check your battery. In this case, they're 6-volt batteries. Take the battery out the tray, just make sure when it's on the bench, just check your levels, bring the level up with distilled water, make sure the connections are good and tight. Also, I would say when you first get your new bike, take it for short rides, don't go too far on it, because you don't want to be too far away from home if something's not quite right. So just bear in mind, you know, you might have a magneto that's, when it gets hot, starts misfiring. Another good idea, always put a few tools in the tool bag or in the toolbox and have them on you. But what I haven't mentioned, I will just mention this, when you have the tank off and the seat off, just go round the bike and just check all nuts and bolts. Just make sure they're tight, because it would be, it's such a shame if you miss one bolt that you would have potentially done when you had the tank off. Just check them all. Don't over tighten them, but if they're tight, fine. But if they're loose, just tighten them all up. The sort of things that do sometimes work a little bit loose can be the top head steady bolt onto the frame. But it's things like mudguard stays and mudguards and your levers, you know, make sure they're tight and not moving round. When you looked at the bike, you looked at the condition of the tyres, you didn't get a chance to check your tyre pressures. Just check those. They are quite important to run those correct. Also, you're going to see quite quickly whether you've got a slow puncture, because they're all tube tyres these. So check your front tyre and your rear tyre. I normally run about, the rear is normally about 28 to 30, and the front one's sort of between like 26 and 28. Take a reading of your tyre pressure, and then in 5 days' time take it again. Because tubes sometimes go down and we might have got a slow puncture, so it's a good idea to find that one out. With this sort of style of bike, or any bike really, it's not a bad idea to spend a little bit of time getting your levers all nice to fit you properly. Front brake, just make sure that you can get your fingers on it before it starts biting really. Make sure you've got a little bit of free play in your throttle cable. The clutch itself, clutch lever, make sure when it's fully out that there is a bit of movement in the cable, because any cable that's taut, potentially the clutch could slip. Make sure your back brake, when you depress it, when you release it, the back wheel is not binding. Like if the brake was over adjusted, it would be just touching the linings like that, and that heat up really quickly. And you wouldn't want to do that, because it mess up the linings, they get really hot, and lose your efficiency of your brake. Also, it'll be very much dragging on the engine as well. Yeah, these bikes, they're not a bike to really thrash about all the time, because things will work loose and they will break. But just bearing in mind that it's not a bad idea just to go over it quite often with a spanner. If you're out on a ride and you're doing a couple 100 miles, when you come back, maybe a couple of days later, you get a bit of time, just run over your bike, check it. Also check your gearbox oil again, because they do drop off in the main seal in the gearbox, you know, and it won't drip when it's not running, but when it's running it can come out of there. So just always keep a check on your levels. Also your primary chain and your main chain, just make sure that's regularly looked at and maintained. And grease spray on the back chain as well. Don't let that get dry, that chain. I think if you buy this sort of bike, you buy it with the mind of looking after it. And most people would just say the riding is one part of it, but the maintenance, that's sometimes more enjoyable to a lot of people. The fact that they've found a bike that they really wanted and they can settle with it. Because it's not like a Japanese bike. You don't just stick it in the garage and forget about it and just bring it out the weekend. You have to nurture these a little bit. It's a different ball game. It's not for everyone, but us that like these, it's got the soul, it's got the character, and that's why you buy these bikes.